A vulnerable young man who killed himself in supported accommodation said the house in Weston was one of several torture chambers in his life. Jack Ellis died in 2014.
His family have spoken to the BBC and the Bureau of Investigative Journalism to try and prevent others going through the same experience.
Jack's housing provider, Curo, said they were shocked, saddened and had expressed sympathy when he died. Dickon Hooper reports.
He was a very kind and thoughtful boy. He had complex needs. He liked going on trains, which we'd done since he was little.
Jack Ellis had autism and suffered from depression. When he was 19, he moved to supported housing in Weston, run by Curo. They get £142 per person per week, double the rate for private housing because tenants get a key worker and more security.
When I first went there, I was impressed because it was very clean and it was tidy.
Jack's sister Rebecca doesn't want her face shown for personal reasons.
There was cameras outside their rooms.
But that impression soon changed. Jack told his sister people were taking drugs and there were adults around who didn't live there. And then, that's the assault in November 2013.
Yes.
Rebecca says Jack was assaulted in Weston and threatened with stabbing at the flat where he tried to take his own life.
There's security cameras and there's staff and key workers. How could this possibly happen? And then they don't even contact his next of kin to inform them that their brother has tried to take their life and is now in hospital.
North Somerset Council says a social worker was then reassigned, but in the new year, things got worse.
He was assaulted by beating.
That happened in Weston. Rebecca says someone also tried to force their way into Jack's flat. None of the assaults or threats were by Curo staff or other residents. In March 2014, Jack took his own life. An independent report in the autumn after Jack's death did rate all of Curo's services consistently high, but suggested improvements should be made to information sharing and safeguarding policies. Curo said they monitor and update them constantly, and that a separate independent case review said communication between agencies was good, with no missed opportunities or warning signs about Jack in the weeks before his death.
There was this awful pungent smell.
Jack's mother found him, and there's evidence suggesting he'd been dead for several days.
He just broke down, and I begged him to wake up, and it was terrible.
The independent case review hasn't been shared with us or Jack's sister. She says she's not heard from Curo in 2 years.
I really do not want any other young, vulnerable people to be in that same situation and other family members to have to go through that.
The local council and mental health trust said Jack was getting considerable and appropriate support. The council insists improvements have been made, but won't tell us or his next of kin what they are.
And Dickon joins me now with more about Curo, a major housing provider here in the southwest. Dickon.
Well, David, we've looked hard at this and we understand that the Curo board never discussed Jack Ellis's suicide, and you might expect that to have happened given how serious it was. We've also found out that the chairman has resigned recently after a big breakdown of trust with the chief executive. Chief executive made a series of allegations, most of which were upheld, not about Jack Ellis, that should be said. He basically said, look, the chairman is too involved in operational matters, he's too much out there on the ground. Gave some examples, visiting one elderly tenant, getting involved in security in Weston, for example. Now, some people we've spoken to said that's a good thing, that's what the chairman should be doing, but as often as you know in these cases, independent consultants come in, they did a review and they said, no, sorry, look, the chairman has crossed the line here, he's broken codes of conduct and he had to go. So some interesting changes at the top for Curo. It is a big housing provider, so it'll be interesting to see where they go from here. I should say that they didn't want to comment on this particular aspect of our story, and neither did the Curo chairman.